Every brand that I've came across has one goal and one goal only: the exit. And the biggest brands sell for the biggest multiples because they have been obsessed over one metric, not cash flow, not how much revenue they're pulling every single month, but enterprise value. And these guys know they're making actual good money working in their business every single month. However, they are building generational wealth once they exit the company. But what I want to dispel in this video is the myth that an exit actually happens by accident. In fact, according to the most recent data, 80 to 90% of brands that are looking for a buyer do not find one. And for those that do, they often find buyers that pick them apart for very cheap asset valuations. But what separates the brands that can sell for tens of millions, hundreds of millions, even recently some of them sold for over $1 billion, and those that can't even find a buyer? Among the many things that founders need to keep in mind is that one key aspect of your business will determine how well you can sell it, and that is predictable customer acquisition. The people buying your company need to know that you have a predictable system of acquiring the customer with a profit. You can do it consistently and you can do it at scale. That's what turns a business into an actual sellable asset, and that's what we're going to talk about today. I spent the past 6 years running ads for e-commerce businesses, positioning their brands as a premium brand, helping them acquire market share, helping them position their brand the right way. We've seen every single brand under the sun, every single industry you can think of, and we have been in it successfully. Now, why do I say that? It's because one of our clients recently has been acquired, and that client started with us. They were probably making like $3,000 a month at most when we first encountered them, and we saw the potential in them, and that's why we started working with them and helped them to now where they're being acquired for a very, very large sum of money to a private equity firm. So in this video, I'm taking you behind the scenes with what an acquisition actually looks like and what you should do to prepare your business for a potential exit if you're looking to do that. So let's get straight into it. So let's start from zero. Phase one is you're making between 0 and 25K a month. That's where you are when you're trying to establish product market fit. And you see, when a brand is stuck at this level, it's because they're confusing noise for traction. Founders often look at their metrics and they just say, hey, we just need more traffic. But at this point in the game, you don't really have a traffic problem. You have a positioning problem. You haven't given the market a undeniable reason to buy your product over the thousands of other options that they have. And you nail that by dialing in the messaging for the right offer to the right avatar. Now, how that problem actually manifests inside your business might be different. For our client, what it was is the brand was known, but it was known for the cool pictures they posted online. It was kind of like a good feed to follow, but there was no acquisition whatsoever. And so imagine having like close to 100K followers and your brand is probably just making $2,000 a month. Problem is the same. How can you sell your product to a cold audience? And so to bridge this gap, you need 3 things inside your business. The first one is to rebuild your top of funnel messaging. The second one is implementing what we call a thematic testing structure. And then the last one is curating your unit economics so that they feel premium. So the underlying principle of what I talked about in terms of top of funnel messaging is understanding your customers. Why do they care enough to engage with your business? You don't do any advertising before you know your customer. I would say 99% of brands don't do it. The 1% that does, they do it because they work with some kind of agency. And I can say that 99% of agencies don't do it the right way. So there's a huge opportunity for people that do it the right way to just cut through the noise and slice through it like butter, because you're able to cut through the noise with your ads because they're piercing and they're getting to your customers' deepest pain points. You're kind of talking to them on an intimate level. Advertising nowadays feels very stale. It tries to show you that it's authentic and relatable. Customers have never been this sophisticated, so they can smell it. So you need to do it honestly. For this particular business, we mapped out the exact needs of customers based on why they follow that specific brand. And then what we found is that they wanted to feel some kind of an elevated status, and they wanted to be part of a club that very few people knew about that was going to be cool in the future. So kind of being in before the masses join. And so we played on the status, we played on showing them visual cues that really highlighted a certain lifestyle, a certain identity that people wanted to identify with. And that worked really well on top of funnel because we attracted the right eyes that will get us the LTV we were looking for. So then level 2 is once you start testing your messaging, you just can't fly blind. So you need to measure exactly the resonance of the market based on each iteration of test that you do. And once you have all that data, you optimize. That's what I say. Most early stage founders are completely lost as to what direction they should test. Once they start a test, what should come next? What's the iteration number 2, 3, 4, and so forth? What we find is that a lot of founders, and that might be your case as well, you just start throwing random assets like random hooks, random formats that you saw maybe online, or a brand that's successful that you're kind of identifying with. You want to use it because they're using it. There's no clear strategy behind it. To fix this, what we did is we built a testing structure based on what our customers' needs were. Let's say, for example, your customers need to see you in certain publications to give you the credibility that you deserve. So we had an entire ad set with only ads that show all the publications that we were in for that particular client to build that trust and show them that we had credibility in the marketplace. Another one would have been the reviews. People want to feel as though other people went through your product and had a successful experience with it before they commit to purchasing it. That's totally fine. So you build a campaign with only that. And our research showed us that wearing and living with the product, people wanted to see that, how that looked like. And so we curated ads that responded to that need. So you see how everything is based on research. You see and you identify exactly what your customers want to see from you. And then from there, you build ads based on those principles and those pillars of content. Level 3 is establishing high-level perception from day one. You cannot start cheap and build your way up. And so we priced the product accordingly because we understood that we had leverage in basically knowing our customers, so we could charge them more because we were able to place them into the environment they wanted to see from us. So once you've built your pillars of content and then you've also positioned your business as a premium business, the trap is to get accustomed to what took you to that phase. What got you to, let's say, 50K, 100K a month won't get you to $500,000 a month. That's not possible. A lot of brands, they keep like banging their head on Meta. They forget about Google, they forget about Amazon, they forget about TikTok, all of these platforms that have their customers, and they just don't allocate any time or resources to them. And that is a problem because in the private equity world, this is known as asset fragility. One algorithm update away from losing your entire business, essentially. And so if you can show that you have diversity, that is such a leverage in your negotiations because you're de-risking for the buyer. So the first thing, what I tell my clients is you don't need to think about a second platform until you're spending at least $1,000 per day on ads on Meta. If you're not spending at that kind of money profitably and you have a clear scaling roadmap to get to 50K in spend per month, you shouldn't be thinking about a second platform. I see a lot of brands start to spend $25 on Meta and then $10 on Google. That's not a good solution. A good solution is to go all in on one platform, get to know your customers, and then make sure that you're extracting the insights so you can branch out to other platforms. And for your brand, that might be Facebook and then Amazon and then TikTok Shop, for example. You need to have a diversified portfolio of platforms that work for you, with one being the main one because it raises the tide for all the other platforms. The other major risk is what we call creative burnout. So you start testing a few creatives, you get comfortable, you don't test other formats, and your ads stop working because you don't have a system that extracts what works from that specific creative and can repurpose it into a different format, for example, or kind of build on that. Now, if you build a system, and this is what we did, where you have extracted the format, the hook and the angle, you will never run out of variations. For example, the format is saturated, the hook and the angle are still there, right? You can repurpose them into a carousel, into a UGC, because those two variables, the fundamental principles of why the ad worked, are still there. And on the other hand, if it's the format and the hook that are still working and the angle is just not hitting anymore, you have essentially other angles that you can test. So another one of the levers that we pulled on is what we call seasonal drops. Okay, a lot of brands face what we call catalog risk and seasonal risk. You're out of season, maybe you're selling in summer or you're selling in winter, whatever, and in down season, you're just at zero. That's a big risk. Your catalog risk means you're running out of a hero product. Other products aren't selling enough. You have to wait to replenish your stock before you can sell again. That's a big risk as well. So in our case, we were dealing with catalog risk and seasonal risk. The way we solved this is we identified the troughs during the year where the sales would go down, because we architected what we call drops throughout the year, strategically placed around those times to create the novelty, to artificially boost the sales, because people like novelty essentially. And so if you do a great job in building your brand to be a brand where people like to be identified with, then you drop stuff, people will like it. And that is a much better strategy, because now you're not degrading your brand equity, because out of season, you're out of your best selling product because it's sold out in the high season. And now you're left with only dead stock that you need to get rid of. And so in our case, what we did is we organized the creative calendar with 2 to 4 drops a year, where we would drop them strategically based on what our customers were behaving like during that period, and showing them a product that fit exactly the way they were living in that period. So this is how you build diversity. You're diversified enough to not risk any seasonal risks, catalog risks. You don't have any creative fatigue risks, just one ad carrying the entire ad account, for example, and you don't have one platform that's carrying the entire business. So you're kind of leveraged in a way where you're de-risking your entire business, and it's much more attractive for a buyer. All right, so now we've made it to the final phase. You're pushing $500,000 a month, $1 million a month even in revenue. And right now you're kind of positioned in the prime selling zone for your brand. The question is, can the business run without you? Because if the answer is no, and you are the face of the business, for example, or you are running the business, everything kind of falls on your shoulders, then you don't own a sellable company. So to ensure we didn't fall into that problem, we focused on 3 things: process systemization, cultivating valuation, and building the buyer data suite. So the first point is very simple. They come in, the private equity firm, they want to know everything about the processes. They want to see every single document. They want to audit the entire thing. So essentially they came to us, spoke to us about our strategy, how we did things. We showed them everything, and having things documented is super important. And that's why in this case, it wasn't an issue. We were smart enough to build really deep ambassador programs and non-official partnerships with like A-list celebrities that helped a lot with the valuation. And this drove immense interest by buyers because they saw the brand as a very, very, very large player in the future. And that helped a lot. And the last point is data. We're talking here about new customer ROAS, LTV to CAC, year-on-year growth. So you need to be able to track those metrics like a hawk and show the growth in those specific metrics, because that shows that the business has growth potential and stability. So you see, at the end of the day, it's not the product that sells, it's the machine that you build around it. Anyone can have a good month or a good year. That's not a business. As business is when you know exactly where the customer is going to come from, exactly what to say to them, and exactly what happens next when it comes to their retention. And it's all written down and documented so it keeps running without you. So please stop asking, how do I make more money today? And start asking yourself, if you want to sell your business, would someone actually buy this if I walked away tomorrow? So if you're doing anywhere between 7 figures, 8 figures, even more, and you're looking to sell your business and you want to turn your marketing into something someone would pay a lot for, you can book a call with me directly using the link in the description. I hope you found this video useful, and I'll see you on the next one.